Welcome to AMJ Radio Live, the audio companion to AMJ, in which we bring the authors, editors, and readers of our journal to you via an audio format. Every week on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, new episodes are released exploring important issues in management and management scholarship. Hear about topical issues in business and research in live, interactive, as well as pre-recorded content. Please enjoy this episode of our series, which was recorded live on X, formerly known as Twitter, in October 2023.
Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Mark Gruber, editor at the Academy of Management Journal, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this week's episode of AMJ Radio Live with a wonderful guest, Quinetta Roberson, who is deputy editor and handles primarily the micro manuscripts. Quinetta is the John Hanna Professor of Organizational Behavior at Michigan State University Broad College of Business, former president of the Academy of Management, has a lot of credit to her work, has been editor at other journals, etc. And as we will learn today, she's also a champion in track and field. We will come to this at the end of this session, this short session of 15 minutes this afternoon, European time, or this morning, US time, this evening, Asian time. So a warm welcome, Quinetta. It's a pleasure to have you on the program this week.
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here as always.
Wonderful. It's the second time you're here already. We had last time a wonderful conversation. I have it in a very good memory. And today we have a couple of topics that we want to talk about. Number one, our paper development workshops that we host basically almost every month, each and every month. Second, the special issue that's coming up where the submission window opens on the 1st of November. And third, your hobby or almost a professional career, as given how successful you are in track and field, and that will be the special insight at the end of the session today. But let's start off with our paper development workshops. As many of the listeners probably will know, AMJ engages in paper development workshops. This is an activity where we start off presenting, in the first few minutes, the journal, what publishing in AMJ is about, what are some tips and tricks by the editors. We have typically 4 or 5 editors with us, so it's a small team. Then in a second part of the workshop looks actually at papers and gives one-on-one feedback to these papers. And what we do have is a long lineup of locations that are coming up to the end of our term, which is in the summer of 2025. And we have just been to Boston on October 4, and that's the focus of our conversation with Quinetta this afternoon. We have been to Barcelona recently. We will be in Taiwan on December 8. We will be in Atlanta on December 15, in Cape Town on January 10, and in Darmstadt, Germany on January 29. So just by this list of locations, you see that we are basically on all different continents, so that we travel, but the scholars don't have to travel. But coming to the focus of the conversation that I want to have with Quinetta is our PDW in Boston at Harvard University, hosted by Karim Lakhani. He invited us to be there for the day with a particular topic, which is AI, machine learning, both from the perspective of the new methods that enable our research, but also in terms of a phenomenon, how it changes the workplace and organizations. And Quinetta was there together also with Georg Vonkrog, the deputy editor on the macro side, and myself and a few other editors of AMJ, to actually talk about this important subject and to give feedback to papers. And, with this said, I set the frame of what our PDWs are and what they are about. And let me ask Quinetta, we had quite some success with this PDW, more than 50 people in person, more than I think 500-600 online. What are your big learnings? What are your big takeaways? What did you take away from the day that we spent in Boston?
Well, I think that part of the success of the PDW was that it drew people who are doing work in AI and machine learning, but also for people who have an interest in doing work in AI and machine learning. And we could kind of come together and figure out how we can move the field of management and organization science forward, using these techniques. And one of the things that struck me for the listeners, we had 2 panel discussions in the morning. One was from authors who have used AI and machine learning in their micro studies, and one from involving authors on the macro side. And it was started, the day was started by, as you mentioned, Karim Lakhani, who talked about, I remember him querying everyone and said, how many people know about AI and machine learning? Next, he said, how many people have used it at some point in their life, which I think we all have. But then the third question was, how many people use it every day? And he talked about these AI and machine learning prompts that you have to do prompt engineering to figure out how it's going to work best. And that was it relates to one of the takeaways from the workshop, because, I think that, as learners, we're all interested in kind of these new methodologies and new techniques. But the question is this the best way to investigate our research question? And so, I know that at AMJ, we're not so much interested in the papers that use the newest and the coolest methods, but use them in a way that advance our science and give us insight into a phenomenon in a way that we haven't been able to understand that phenomenon. And so I think it was just really interesting being able to, one, hear examples of people who have done that, but then also ways that I can start to push my thinking to be a bit more, almost to disrupt my own thinking, but think about how this methodology or this approach could be used in a way to get at my research or my research questions in a new and different and I have to add theoretically contributing way.
And I think that that's a highly important point, because what we don't want to get, but we sometimes get, are papers that actually use very elaborate machine learning approaches and to look at questions that we studied like 30 years ago and basically don't try to add something novel, and just, testing it with a larger data set. It's important to do these types of replication studies. It's not a home for, at AMJ, these replication studies, but, the studies that use machine learning need to push the theoretical frontier too. And I think that's what one of the outcomes for me of the special outcomes of the day was to see actually scholars who have used these methods to address questions that we could not address before, to address phenomena that were elusive and then push theory, identify new boundary conditions, etc. So I think especially for AMJ, quite important to have both the empirical angle to it, but also the meaningful, important theoretical contribution. And by the way, Quinetta and myself, together with Georg Vonkrug, we have authored from the editor's piece earlier this year, actually in issue number 2, 2023, where we discuss actually the possibilities that AMJ offers for authors applying machine learning methods. Is there something else that you took away from the day which you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I think, I was going to reference from the editor piece that you, Georg, and I did, because I think the listeners can go to that FTE, to that article, and see some of the examples, because we do reference some of the studies, the published studies that have used an AI ML approach. But one of the things that was also very interesting from the PDW was to hear the authors' decisions the decisions that they had to make and how they made the decisions in the AI and machine learning process. It's not just, we take a generative AI program and we say, analyze this data. I mean, you can do that, but there are other things other parameters that need to be considered. And so hearing about those parameters, hearing about, or those decisions and how the authors made those decisions was really important for me, because it made me, do some reflection on my own thinking and the types of research design and methodological decisions that I make. The other thing is there were a couple of papers that used data from other countries in Africa, countries in Asia, and thinking about how the use of AI and machine learning would differ in those contexts. One in particular comes to mind is Lindsay Cameron's work, and she was thinking her study uses Uber, but she looked at Uber in an African context, and the way people even engage with the platform is different. And so taking those contextual factors into consideration are really important as we understand what the data tell us and our pattern of results, that, is not just so much about a significant finding, but really what are the other factors about how the data were collected, who collected the data, the context, et cetera, and how that influences the interpretation of our findings.
Absolutely. And I think Lindsay's presentation was a very memorable one, a very interesting one. Thank you for raising this. So for everyone interested in our FTE, it's called Recognizing and Utilizing Novel Research Opportunities with Artificial Intelligence. And it was published in the second issue of this year. So it's open access. You can easily find this online. If you just type in Quinetta's name, my name, and Georg's name, for instance, it will be popping up immediately. And we can share it actually here on the AMJ Radio Live later after this conversation. Let's move on to our second topic, because I see the time is running. We have a special issue coming up. We call this the AMJ Special Research Forum. It has the title, Our Transformational Era, Implications for Management and Organizations. And those who followed our from the editors' pieces, our communication, know that what AMJ is trying to do is to embrace all these changes that are happening in the economy, in management, in organizations, and tries to understand our research. We try to find research that pushes the frontier and helping us understand how these phenomena change the way managers behave, think, act, organizations are changed, etc., and how that advances and puts into question maybe theory. So maybe Quinetta, as you're a micro scholar, we of course see many changes on the micro level. Maybe you can talk a bit about what excites you about this special issue, by the way, which has a submission window from November 1st to November 30th. Please keep this in mind. So, Quinetta, what excites you about this special issue?
So I think it's this, it's the potential that we will have papers that are attempting to be transformational and address transformational issues within our world. I think that, my work, for example, I do diversity and inclusion work, some organizational justice, and I've had some conversations with authors who say, I want to look at diversity as well for this special issue. Do you think that's a fit? And usually I will push back to say, what is it about what you're doing that is actually transformational? And they'll talk to me about the novelty, which I do think is a piece, right? That there is I'm excited about some topics that we maybe haven't talked about before, or some things that we don't understand that are going on in our organizations that we don't understand. And so, kind of pushing the fields, our respective fields forward and micro at large on some issues that really haven't been addressed in the literature. But because this is AMJ, it's not enough to just have novelty. Of course, we need some kind of theoretical foundation and conceptual foundation. And so I'm really excited about people bringing new conceptual lenses to phenomenon within the field of management, and particularly within the micro area, and maybe also different approaches, right? Of course, a methodological contribution is often not sufficient for AMJ, but to be able to think about ways of examining these transformational issues that get into the nuances and the complexities and all of the things that, we know characterize the phenomenon in our field, but we haven't really explored. And so I look for people, for those ideas that are going to disrupt the field, that are going to be a bit different, and really not just push the field forward, but take some leaps and some swings.
Absolutely. And this will be an exciting one. And I look forward to handling with Georg and you and Anne Langley a couple of papers there. So what's important to mention is that the submission window, as I said, is open from the 1st to the 30th of November. What we will do is to screen all the incoming papers that are submitted to the special issue. And those that don't present a strong fit will be channeled to the normal issue. So there is no risk of submitting to the special issue. But of course, we invite you to check the special issue homepage at the AOM website. That gives you also some exemplary questions of topics and research issues that we believe are critical to address. I'm looking a bit at the time. We're almost at the end, but I don't want to miss asking you a particular question, because I've been following your track and field career with a lot of interest, and I saw a lot of medals that you won actually on your Facebook post or LinkedIn post. So tell us a bit about this passion, this secret side of Quinetta Roberson.
The quick version is that I ran I was a sprinter in high school and college. I ran the 55, 100, and 200 meter dashes, which I find extremely fun. And I realized that, I stopped running after college for sport, for exercise. I would go to the track. I found out recently that I can compete again through the U.S. Track and Field Masters and other different forums. So I'm back on the track and I'm back competing, and I love it.
Wonderful, and I think it gives you a lot of training and energy that you also can then use for AMJ, because you handle a lot of manuscripts for us, I have to say, and I'm very grateful for this. We have a wonderful team in place. Those of you who don't know the team, please check out the AMJ website. We really have an international, a diverse team that handles, can handle all types of manuscripts within the management organizational domain. I'm looking at the time. Unfortunately, we are out of time already. This went pretty quick. So thank you so much, Quinetta, for spending the time today with us. It was lovely to welcome you. Just as a reminder to the general listeners, we have every month one editor coming and talking with us, so you get to know a bit behind the scenes what the editors are doing. Quinetta, the final word is yours. If you want to send some greetings maybe to your track and field colleagues who always lose against you.
Well, no, I will say that because you said that it maybe gives me skills for AMJ. I told you I'm a sprinter, so most of my races are under 30 seconds, where AMJ being a deputy editor is more of a distance run.
Marathon.
So it's a marathon.
Yeah, exactly. Lovely. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for listening. It was a pleasure hosting you, Quinetta, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Take good
everyone,
care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.